up, everybody? It's JT Sports, and I'm back to you guys with my XFL Week 5 Power Rankings. And we are at the midway point of the XFL season, Week 5. And the XFL season is 10 games, so since we're at Week 5, this makes this the mid-season point for the XFL season. And we have some really interesting storylines going into Week 5. I mean, concerning some of these teams, because we have teams that have been really good throughout the whole entire XFL season. Will they be able to keep the momentum? We have some teams that started off on a little bit of a cold streak that are now starting to trend up in the right direction. We have some teams that end up being really good to start out the season that are now starting to fall off the face of the earth. So make sure, if you are new to the channel, that you like the video and subscribe to the channel, because I upload XFL videos and NFL videos daily. So the first team that I have for my Week 5 XFL Power Rankings are the Houston Roughnecks. Now, the Houston Roughnecks were my number 1 team for my Week 4 XFL Power Rankings, and they continue to be number 1. Against the Dallas Renegades, they beat them 27-20 in that win, which was a very entertaining game. It was very unfortunate that Landry Jones suffered an injury, but for the Houston Roughnecks, for the first couple of weeks of the XFL season up to the midway point that we are in now, they have looked like the most dominant team in the XFL, man. I mean, PJ Walker and this offense looks doggone near unstoppable. PJ Walker is the best quarterback in the XFL, and he pretty much is the XFL MVP for the mid-season. So for the Houston Roughnecks, they are trending up in the right direction. They are the number 1 team in the XFL, and it's going to be really interesting to see what the Houston Roughnecks do to close out the second half of the XFL season as we near the XFL playoffs. Now, my number 2 team that I have on my list are the St. Louis Battlehogs. Now, the St. Louis Battlehogs, I had them as my number 2 team in my Week 4 XFL Power Rankings last week, and they continue to look like that as they came off a very impressive win versus the Seattle Dragons, 23-16. Their defense was really good, like always. They forced the Seattle Dragons to make a quarterback change. They ended up benching Mike Silvers, and they ended up putting in B.J. Daniels, and B.J. Daniels made things a little bit interesting to close out the game in the second half, but ultimately the Dallas Renegades ended up pulling off, or the St. Louis Battlehawks ended up pulling off the victory, and Jordan Ta'amu looked very impressive. I think a lot of people are really sleeping on Jordan Ta'amu. Now, I know last week he didn't really have that impressive of a game, but this week he bounced back in a major way. He was really impressive, and Jordan Ta'amu could end up being a sleeper MVP candidate for the XFL season at the end of the season if he keeps up the play that he has been playing over the last couple of weeks. Now, I'm not saying that he is going to win XFL MVP. I'm just saying he could end up creeping up in that discussion. I don't think nobody's going to end up catching up to PJ Walker at this point. It's basically PJ Walker's award to lose at this point, but I wouldn't be surprised to see Jordan Ta'amu as a finalist for XFL MVP. So I had the St. Louis Battlehawks as my number 2 team going into Week 5 of the XFL season. At number 3, we have the Dallas Renegades. Now, the Dallas Renegades lost to the Houston Roughnecks 20-27, but I was really impressed with what I saw in that loss. Now, they do dip to 2-2, but I still think they are the 3rd best team in the XFL. Now, Landry Jones end up leaving the game with a knee injury. Now, he's rumored to be out for 2 weeks. So, it's going to be really interesting seeing what the backup quarterback for the Dallas Renegades ends up doing, going on for the next couple of weeks until Landry Jones is able to return. Now, I mean, the Dallas Renegades were all the way in that game against the Houston Roughnecks all the way into the end until the backup quarterback came in. He ended up throwing a game-winning interception to the Houston Roughnecks, which ended up sealing the game. And it was a really impressive interception, man. It was like he threw the football. It looked like it was going to end up being an incomplete pass, and the dude dove for the football like that. And it was just a really great interception on behalf of the Houston Roughnecks. But for the Dallas Renegades, for the most part, I still don't know what to think of the Dallas Renegades. I mean, they look like they could end up being a really good team, but they also have some points that their offense isn't really able to get things going. And I don't know. I really don't know how I feel about the Dallas Renegades up to this point of the XFL season. You think that I would, since we pretty much have our ideal of who the best teams and the bad teams are and things like that. But Dallas Renegades, I still can't really get a good read on them. But as of right now, I have them number 3 on my XFL Week 5 Power Rankings. Now, My number 4 team that I have the New York Guardians. Now, the New York Guardians are coming off of a bounce back win that they had against the LA Wildcats, which they won that game 17-14. Louis Perez ended up being the starting quarterback for them. And I initially thought that Louis Perez should have been the starting quarterback for the New York Guardians when the XFL season kicked off. He surprisingly was their third string quarterback. So you had Matt McGloin, then he had Marquise Williams, and he ended up being the third string quarterback behind both of those guys, which was really surprising. I mean, when you look at that game versus the LA Wildcats, who were coming off of a blowout victory versus the DC Defenders in week 4, I was really surprised that their defense got carved up the way they did by Louis Perez. Louis Perez was really good. Not a lot of mistakes. He looked really fluent. And I think Louis Perez, coming into the start of the season, was going to end up being one of the best XFL quarterbacks. And so far last week, he looked like that. And I'm really pondering the decision of why he wasn't a starter early on. I'm really trying to figure out why they ended up riding with Matt McGloin as long as they did and tried to insert Marquise Williams. So I think Marquise Williams is really good inside the red zone, which we saw the Guardians get him involved inside the red zone, but I don't think he was good enough to be a starting quarterback. So I'm really happy with the decision that the New York Guardians went with starting quarterback Louis Perez. He was really good for the Birmingham Iron in the AAF. He looked really good for the New York Guardians. So I had the New York Guardians at number 4. Last week I had them all the way at number 7. They made the biggest jump in my power rankings this week. So congratulations to the New York Guardians, landing number 4 on my XFL Week 5 power rankings. Now, before I continue on, make sure if you guys haven't that you like the video and subscribe to the channel, because like I said, I upload XFL videos daily, XFL content predictions. I also upload NFL videos and college football videos as well. And my number 5 team that I have the Tampa Bay Vipers. Now the Tampa Bay Vipers, for most of my power rankings, I had Tampa Bay Vipers as the worst team in the XFL. Now, they came close to beating the Houston Roughnecks the week prior, and this week they finally put it together, dominating the DC Defenders 25-0. And the biggest thing that led to their victory was how good they were when it came to running the football. Jaquez Patrick and the running backs that they have were really good against the DC Defenders, who really have a really good defense. For some reason, the DC Defenders have been a little bit of a slide over the last couple of weeks. So Tampa Bay Vipers were able to get their first victory of the XFL season. Now, this might be a little bit of a big jump, but the reason why the Tampa Bay Vipers were able to leapfrog from worst team in the XFL to number 5 is simply for the fact that the teams that are below them have really not been that impressive. So have the Tampa Bay Vipers at number 5. And it's really interesting because there's also some rumblings about how Quentin Flowers wants to be traded. He might end up being traded. So it's really interesting to monitor that. But have the Tampa Bay Vipers at number 5. At number 6, I had the DC Defenders. Now, the DC Defenders, I don't know what the hell is going on with the DC Defenders. I mean, they are on a 2-game losing streak. They went from, in my opinion, the best team in the XFL to becoming one of the worst teams in the XFL. And they have come off with 2 blowout losses. They have not been able to score a lot of points. The offense is struggling. They lost 25-0 to the Tampa Bay Vipers, who were going in as the worst team in the XFL. So I don't know what's really going on with the DC Defenders. But, I mean, basically what's happening is that the DC Defenders have a big play offense, and then when they're not able to get the big plays downfield, you basically neutralize the defense. Cardell Jones hasn't really looked that good over the last couple of weeks, and if he continues to struggle going into week 5, I wouldn't be surprised if we see Pep Hamilton end up pulling out Cardell Jones and starting their backup quarterback. So, I mean, a lot of pressure on the DC Defenders going into this week because, I mean, I think, I don't really know. It's like the midway point, and we really don't know what's going to happen with the DC Defenders. But, you know, some good teams, sometimes they have to overcome adversity. And maybe the DC Defenders just have to overcome some adversity, man. But it's crazy how the DC Defenders had one of the best offenses. They ended up having one of the worst offenses over the last 2 weeks, failing to score points and things like that. So the DC Defenders, I had them at number 6 on my XFL power rankings. And at number 7, I have the LA Wildcats. Now, the LA Wildcats lost to the New York Guardians 14-17. And this is coming off of a win versus the DC Defenders last week, which they blew them out. And I had them as number 6 or number 5, I believe. And I was never really high on the LA Wildcats. Like, a lot of people said, oh, the LA Wildcats should be a lot higher, JT. You're really disrespecting the LA Wildcats. The LA Wildcats really have things going. And I never really trusted that at all. I'm one of those people in life that I'm a wait and see person. Like, I never really get too high on things. I want to see what happens to follow up on that. And the LA Wildcats were not able to follow up on that, and they lost to the New York Guardians 14-17. And I don't really know about them. So what are they? They're like 1-3 going into the midway point. So it's really interesting seeing what the LA Wildcats are going to do. And I mean, the weird thing is that they have a good quarterback. Most of the teams in the XFL, well, all the teams in the XFL that are struggling to win games all have bad records because of the quarterback position. But the LA Wildcats actually have a good quarterback, and Josh Johnson, who has played really well up to this point. So it's a big surprise to me that the fact that the LA Wildcats have only won one game, and we're at the midway point of the XFL season. And the worst team in the XFL is the Seattle Dragons. Now the Seattle Dragons lost to the St. Louis Battlehogs 16-23, and their offense is just really abysmal to watch. They finally benched quarterback Brandon Silvers. They ended up benching him. They put BJ Daniels in, and BJ Daniels almost brought the Seattle Dragons back, and then of course he threw an interception. That was pretty much it. But I mean, BJ Daniels was really exciting to watch, so I'm interested to see what he does as the starting quarterback for the Seattle Dragons to close out the rest of the XFL season for the next 5 weeks. So Seattle Dragons, in my opinion, are the worst team in the XFL going into Week 5. So let me know what you guys think about my Week 5 XFL Power Rankings down in the comment section down below. Make sure you like the video, subscribe to the channel for more XFL videos and content, and thanks for watching.